Now, one question that comes up pretty often is how to judge a Dasha. There are ideas about how to judge a Dasha. If we're in the Dasha of a benefic, Venus, Jupiter, good Mercury, it should work out well. If we're in the Dasha of our 10th Lord, we should have great, strong career. If we're in the Dasha of the 7th house and Jupiter's there, we should have wonderful relationships. These are very generic ways of assessing a Dasha, and they typically don't work out in practice. And the reason that's the case is because there's a lot more to judging a Dasha. And it really depends on how you have learned astrology. So for example, to say you're in the Dasha of your 10th Lord, therefore you're going to have great career success. Well, it depends. Is your 10th Lord in good dignity? Is it being starved through Vimshottari avashtas by other planets? What is the state of the 10th Lord? That's going to give you deeper insight into how the Dasha is going to play out. You say you're in the Dasha of Venus, so therefore you should be having relationships and a lot of love and support and success and a lot of Venetian things. Well, that's a very general thing, and that's just giving you an idea of the theme of the time period. But what you need to ask yourself is, where is Venus placed? What house is it in? What is its dignity? What planets are with it? What are the Vimshottari avashtas with it? What is the strength of its Shadbala? What Baladi avashta is it in? All these things are what allows you to more properly assess the principles of a Dasha. So again, on this channel, I did a full Nakshatra Dasha course, free course that you can look up. And if you go to the playlists option, the playlist option on youtube.com/Ryan's Vedic Astrology, you'll see it. It says, I believe, Vimshottari Nakshatra Dasha course. It'll give you a lot of very general insights about how to judge Dasha. But in order to judge Dasha well, again, let's think about what will be involved in that process. I'm going to give you a very general outline that you have to follow step by step. And this outline is in the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2. So it's in the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2. This is an outline that I use for a lot of my courses. I used it for the step-by-step chart analysis course on the downloadable courses page at Asheville Vedic Astrology. But what it's going to tell you is, how do you determine what a Dasha is going to do? And let's give some examples. So in Appendix 4 of the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2, there's a detailed method of step-by-step chart analysis. And there are about 15 steps. 15 steps that take about about 9 pages to cover to really figure out what a planet's going to do. So again, you can't really use as basic principles. They'll work kind of, and maybe you'll get it right every now and then, but you need to use some kind of step-by-step analysis. So I'm going to give you an example of one of the steps. Let's say, for example, you are running a Dasha of the 10th house Lord. So you know that you are a Leo ascendant, and you are in the Dasha of Venus. So you're running the Dasha of a 10th house Lord. And astrologers have proclaimed great success and so on, but you get there and it doesn't quite work out the way you think. Why is that? Well, here are the things that you have to consider, and I'm going to tell you the why you have to consider each one of these things. So you have to consider, what sign is the 10th house Lord in? That's going to tell you the dignity of the planet. That's going to tell you, is the planet's agenda supported? So it's going to give you the baseline of, are you going to be supported in 10th house issues? Or will there be hindrance by being in the sign of an enemy? Things of that nature. You want to know what planets are graha aspecting, planetarily aspecting, the 10th cusp. Because that's going to show with how much strength, if it's a good planet, or how much adversity, if it's a bad planet, the capacity to manifest 10th house things are going to be. You want to know who rules the 10th house. It's Venus in this case. So the approach to work in 10th house things will take on a Venetian nature, right? So if it's a good Venus, you'll have a lot of support, a lot of ease, a lot of luxury, a lot of enjoyment, a lot of comfort about your work. If it's Saturn or Mars, you're going to be working hard for that success. So you got to know who is ruling over the 10th house. Again, what is the dignity of the Lord? We discussed that based on the sign it falls in. What is the Lord's Shadbala? Why is that important? Because the Shadbala tells us how much energy does the planet have to accomplish its goals. With a stronger Shadbala, you're more likely to attend to those goals with vigor, with vitality. If the Shadbala is low, someone might predict a good time period with the 10th house, but you never get around to it. You just spend your time watching Netflix, binge watching TV shows on how to be successful, but you never actually get out there and do it. So Shadbala is important. You need to know, where is the Lord of the house placed? If you have the 10th Lord in the 12th house, well, maybe you're not going to have that rocket ship success because you're going to be spending more time focused on 12th house activities. If it's in the 10th house, that's great. If it's in the 6th house, maybe you'll succeed through debts and delays. If it's in the 3rd house, maybe you'll go on a lot of adventures for your career. So the house placement is very important. Who is the Lord with? This is going to take us to the Lajatati Avashtas. Is the planet that rules the house of the Dasha you're running, are they supportive of the agenda to be successful in career? Or are they holding you back because they're enemies to each other? What planets are Raashi aspecting the 10th Bhava? Well, planets that Raashi aspect the 10th Bhava show us initially how strong is the foundation to the area of life represented by the 10th house. A lot of positive Raashi aspects, you're going to start out with good support. Negative Raashi aspects, you're going to have weaker support. What Bhava yogas does the 10th house Lord make? Bhava yogas from Parashara, and in the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2, there's a whole section on all 144 Bhava yogas. It tells you if the 10th Lord is in the 6th house, what's that going to mean, right? If the 10th Lord is in the 8th house, what's that going to mean? So you have to contemplate the Bhava yogas as well. What Bhava yogas does the 10th house Lord make? Are there Bhava yogas in the 10th house? These are all going to further identify what's going to happen. What are the Lajatati Avashtas? How are the agendas supported or hurt? How are the friends coming to help the planet? How are the enemies saying, nope, you're not going to be successful? What are the Baladi Avashtas? With how much maturity do you develop that karma? If you get a really wonderful, exalted 10th house Lord, and you run that Dasha, and yet it's in Amrita Avashta, it's going to be good, but it's going to be a very weak good. It's almost like a dead karma. But if you get that exalted, good 10th house Lord in a good situation in a Yuva Avashta, right in the middle of the sign, that's when you're going to see a lot of success, especially if you get confluence from the Dasamsha, the 10th divisional chart. So Baladi Avashtas. What is the state of the 10th Lord in the Dasamsha, the Varga that deals with 10th house things, great fruits? How is Saturn and the Sun situated in the Dasamsha? Are you going to be able to work hard and be consistent to support that 10th house? What planets are Graha aspecting the 10th Bhava in the Dasamsha? What are the Lajatati Avashtas affecting Saturn and Sun in the Dasamsha? So all these steps, this is step 12 actually, of Appendix 4 in the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2, a detailed method of step-by-step chart analysis. That's just step 12. Everything I listed there is one step within assessing a chart. And so by going through each of those steps and knowing exactly what the reason of the step is, that will give you more precise and clear insights into how that dasha in detail is going to work out versus just the real general principles that most people tend to use. And so we'll go through an abbreviated step-by-step process. This is at the end of the appendix section, section in the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2. So the abbreviated, if you want to know what the dasha is going to do, figure out what the planet is. Is it Venus, Mars, Saturn? What house does that planet rule? Number one, figure that out. That's going to tell you the area that gets activated. What is the dignity of that planet? That's going to show you with how much ease or difficulty are you able to achieve the agenda that that planet has set for itself? What is the Lord Shadbala? How much vigor and vitality can that planet support? The indications of the Dasha time period in question. What is the Baladi of Ashta? With how much maturity is the person going to approach this karma? What planets are Graha aspecting the house in question? How much support is the planet in the house getting? Where is the Lord placed? That's going to tell you, even though you're running the Dasha of a 10th house Lord, well, what is it getting pulled into? What other area of life is it getting pulled into? What are the Bhava yogas involved with this planet? What are the Lajatati Avashtas on the planet and in the house in question? What is the state of the house lord in the appropriate Varga? Remember, every house has an appropriate Varga. The 9th house, the Navamsha, the 10th house, the Dasamsha, the 3rd house, the Drekana, the 6th house, the Trimsamsha, and so on. How are the primary Karakas situated in the appropriate Varga? What planets are Graha aspecting the appropriate house in the appropriate Varga? And what Lajatati Avashtas are affecting important planets in the appropriate Varga? So all these things need to be considered in order to really gauge a dasha well. And again, what that simply means is that you also have to know how to read a chart well first and foremost. So if you want to learn about these things, take your time, learn the basics very well. Once you learn the basics, this will become much easier for you. There are plenty of videos on this channel that speak to the things that I've listed. So if you want to know about Baladi Avashtas, go find the video on Baladi Avashtas. If you want to know about planetary aspects, go find the video on planetary aspects. Lajatati Avashtas is the same thing. Or if you want to download some classes that you can get some detailed information, AshevilleVedicAstrology.com, the downloadable courses section, there actually is a course specific to understanding the Vimshottari Dasha system. If you really want to get into astrology well and know exactly what I'm talking about when I mention these particular topics, consider the Astrology Apprenticeship program. We start a new one of these. It's a 4-year program. We start a new one of these every year. So the next one will begin in February of 2017. But this video will be up for a while, so always check. It'll be around February or March of the following year that a new program starts. And you can read all about it there. Asheville Vedic Astrology, the Astrological Astrology Apprenticeship Program tab at that website. It'll give you a description of what to expect. But these are the things that are required to really, in an informed manner, with a little more detail and thoughtfulness, to speak to what's really going to happen in that dasha. So it's worth exploring. It's a lot of fun. It's like, especially if you're a good investigator and you like putting puzzle pieces together and your mind is good at that sort of a thing. You can have a good time with astrology in this regard. And who knows, maybe you'll help some people too, which is even better. So be well. Go back and review this video. Take some time to play and review and pause things, take notes, or get the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology Volume 2, the appendix section, and start studying these things.